one moment of kindness, one moment of doing whatever you can to alleviate suffering, however great, however small, doing what you can. And doing it without carrying the deed in your mind. That's what we are trying to accomplish in Zen practice. To save all beings. Zen Buddhism by the numbers, number 8. The Eightfold Path, right resolve. Hekigan Roku case 89. Ungan's the whole body is hand and eye. Engo's introduction. Even when the entire body is eye, you still do not see it. Even when the entire body is ear, you still do not hear it. Even when the entire body is mouth, you still can't speak it. Even when the entire body is mind, you still cannot think it. Putting aside the entire body, without eyes, how do you see? Without ears, how do you hear? Without a mouth, how do you speak? Without a mind, how do you think? If you are intimate with this, you are in the company of the ancient Buddhas. However, putting those old Buddhas aside, with whom should you study Zen? Main subject. Ungan asked Dogo, what does the Bodhisattva of compassion use all those eyes and hands for? Dogo said, it's just like someone reaching back for a pillow in the dead of night. Ungan said, I understand. Dogo asked, how do you understand? Ungan said, the whole body is hand and eye. Dogo said, that's pretty good, but not quite there yet. Ungan said, so how would you put it? Dogo said, the entire body is hand and eye. Secho's verse. The whole body is A-OK. The entire body is Jim Dandy. But saying so, you've set yourself adrift. Spreading its wings, the great rock soars above the winds in 6 directions, churning the waves of the waters in 4 realms. All this for a speck of dust. Big talk and little action. Just look. A net of jewels reflecting one off the other. Where do the hands and eyes of the staff originate? Ha! Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We are very blessed with this weather. It's so wonderful, so wonderful. The world is alive. The birds in the morning, the moon at night, the lake, the trees. It's just so wonderful to be here. And it's the 49th Anniversary Session. 49, much better than 50. You're very fortunate to be here for 49. 7 sevens. Perfect number 7. Yeah. The last time I was here at DBZ, I gave a teisho on 7, a number of completion and spiritual attainment. And 7 sevens, much better. Completion, transition. Wonderful, wonderful. 50 is okay. 50 has a nice solid feel to it, right? It's like a brick building. It's something solid, like a brick outhouse. So maybe we'll be here for the 50th next year. I hope so. So everything that I just said to you about these numbers is true in its own way, but it's also a fantasy. It's a fiction, right? Another way of putting that is it's propaganda. And we are living in a world of unparalleled propaganda. Propaganda morning, noon, and night, invading our lives. Make America great again. That's just one of the most extreme forms of the propaganda, but it's there in everything now. You write an email or you do a search for something online, and then suddenly you're bombarded with advertisements. Here, there, buy this, move here, visit this. And it sinks in. As much as we try not to let it, as much as we try to avoid it, this propaganda is there all the time. Susan Sontag has a famous quote about what she learned from studying the Holocaust. And she said, what I learned is that 10% of people are merciful, no matter what. 10% of people are cruel, no matter what. And the other 80% are open to persuasion. And this is very true. It's very, very true. 10% have a strong inclination towards compassion and mercy. Their past has conditioned them in such a way that their natural bent is towards mercy. "10% are cruel by nature. Their conditioning has pushed them in the direction of cruelty. Who knows what trauma they have suffered in their own lives, or in the lives of their parents or their grandparents, or what karma they are working out. But they will naturally tend towards cruelty. And of course, you see cruelty running wild now. The photographs of the ICE agents with their balaclavas masking their faces, like avenging angels swooping down on people who have been here, mostly without any harm being done in their lives, for decades sometimes. Some people having made lives for themselves, having one man had 3 sons who were in the Marines, and yet they swooped down on him and threw him to the ground and punched him again and again. But that 80%, that's most of us. Probably most people in this room, just by the law of statistics, are open to persuasion. They can be moved in one way or the other. And that is the purpose of propaganda. That is the purpose of the fantasies and fictions that are repeated over and over and over again until people believe them. It was the case in Nazi Germany, where, of course, there was a tradition of anti-Semitism, but they took it to an extreme that had never been seen before, certainly not since the Middle Ages, with just the most outlandish fictions, the most outrageous stories, and all as a means to an end. Scapegoating, plundering, stealing what others had created, what others had worked their whole lives for. And that is being repeated now. Perhaps not in as an extreme form, at least not yet. And so be very, very aware of the propaganda in your lives. And that includes the propaganda that is spoken by people that you trust. Zen teachers, for example. They will tell you things with the best of intentions, almost always. But you have to look and investigate yourself. You have to see the delusion for delusion. Sometimes delusions can be very helpful. Sometimes fictions and fantasies can be very helpful, as long as you don't treat them as objective reality. And you see through them. You see deeply into what is being said and why it's being said. Very important. Buddhism is not immune to that. No religion is immune to that. No nation is immune to that. Investigate. That's what we are doing here. That is what session is. Session is investigation. Propaganda doesn't have to come from outside. Propaganda can come from here and from here. We're sitting in the Zendo, and I don't know what everybody else's experience, but often when I'm sitting in the Zendo, I think the most important thing in the world is the pain in my knee. It's just the whole universe is on hold because my knee hurts. And then I say, oh, wait a second. This is dukkha. This is what Buddha was talking about. It's nothing new. It's just another illusion to be seen through. And there are all kinds of ways that you can deal with this reality. Meditation techniques. If your knee hurts, put your koan on hold for a little while and do a body scan. Investigate your entire body, inch by inch, slowly and intensively, and find the 95% of your body that doesn't hurt. You know, your big toe doesn't hurt. The palms of your hand don't hurt. The soles of your feet don't hurt. The top of your head doesn't hurt. And for some reason, this is the only thing that exists. Propaganda. That's what it is. And it's natural propaganda. It's an adaptive response. Evolution has crafted this over millions of years, starting with one-celled organisms that find some noxious substance and they quickly move away from it. Or they find some pleasant substance and they quickly move towards it. It's the product of conditioning. This is conditioned existence. This is where we are. This is where we're at. This is who we are. Conditioned beings. Not just from our parents and our teachers and our society, but from millions of years, hundreds of millions of years of evolution. But that doesn't mean that it is the only way that we can see things. There is a way that we can put conditioning on hold, that we can say, stop, wait a second. I don't have to react to this. I don't have to buy this nonsense that the pain in my knee is the most important thing in the universe. Or the pain in my heart, or the pain in my relationship, or the pain of not having gotten the promotion that I wanted, or not being able to retire when I wanted to retire, or whatever it is that you're obsessed about, whatever it is that is your source of dukkha. You've been conditioned to treat that as the most important thing in the universe. It doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it inevitable. And that's what we're here for, is to see past this propaganda, this delusion, this fiction. To see deeply into what dukkha is. So I'm doing this Zen Buddhism by the numbers, and I'm up to number 8, which is the Eightfold Path. And I've already spoken in a general way about the Eightfold Path and right understanding in Teisho's at New York Zendo, so I don't want to resume too much from that, but just a few general comments before launching into right resolve. The first has to do with what the Eightfold Noble Path is. It comes from the last of the Four Noble Truths. Notice noble, noble. Which was Buddha's great revelation upon his enlightenment and subsequent period of intensive solo practice for 49 days before he went out to teach. And the first thing that he taught was this Four Noble Truths. And the very first is dukkha. Dukkha exists. Dukkha, that pain in your knee, that pain in your heart, that pain in your ass, that dissatisfaction that gnaws at you. The dissatisfaction may be just something very small, or it may be something the size of a mountain. But whatever it is, it becomes the most important thing in the universe to you. So that was the first discovery. Dukkha is the nature of conditioned existence. And then the second is where it comes from, what the origin of dukkha is, and that's, to sum it up in one word, it's clinging, attachment. Of course, he went on to much greater detail, and subsequent Buddhist texts have beat that dead horse over and over and over again. How dukkha arises, how karma arises, how the wheel of samsara keeps spinning, like that hamster wheel that Shinge Roshi mentioned. That hamster wheel that you jump on and you can't jump off. The centrifugal force of the spinning wheel is just too great for you to jump off unless you make a really intensive effort. And then the third thing that he said was, but dukkha can cease. And the fourth thing was, and this is how you do it, the Eightfold Noble Path. This is the way off of the hamster wheel. So AA is a 12-step program for people with a problematic relationship with alcohol, and Buddhism is an 8-step program for people with a problematic relationship with dukkha. That's what we're doing. So that's the main thrust of the first of the Eightfold Path, understanding. Karma, dukkha, samsara, the nature of reality, the nature of conditioned existence. So to go to the second, which is right resolve. Before that, I just wanted to say a couple of words about this word noble. Does anybody remember from chemistry class the noble gases? What are noble gases? Non-reactive. Yeah. They are. Yeah. What's that?
Full electron shells.
Yes, that is why they're non-reactive. They are non-reactive. The noble gases are helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and a couple of others that I don't remember right now. This is essentially what the noble Eightfold Path is. How to be non-reactive. How to be inert. It doesn't mean to be dead. It doesn't mean to be without a heart. It doesn't mean to be without sympathy and compassion and love and anger and fear and all of the rest. But how do you live a noble life? How do you live a life not dictated by the tyranny of conditioned existence? Understanding is the first step. But the second is at least as important. At least as important. Right resolve. Right vow. This word right, it sounds a little dualistic and judgmental, but what it really means is appropriate, wholesome. So the essence of Mahayana Buddhism is this vow. So let's do it together. And in morning service, we usually do 3 Japanese and then 1 English. But today, because the vast majority of us do not speak Japanese, I'd like to reverse that and do 1 Japanese and 3 English. Okay? So let's do this with feeling. Okay? Shujo muhen segando no mujin segandan Segan yo, however innumerable all beings are, I vow to save them inexhaustible delusions are. I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it. However innumerable all beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it. However innumerable all beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it. So congratulations, you're all bodhisattvas now. No, seriously, this is what it means to be a bodhisattva, is to have this vow and to say it and to mean it. But to mean it, it can't just be propaganda. It has to be something that you have really looked into and really found inside yourself. You can think of it as a koan, a fundamental koan. What does it mean to save all beings? What does it mean to save anybody? What does it mean to save yourself? What is this saving? And what are we saving from? The hint is in number 1 in the Eightfold Path. Dukkha. And what are all beings? What are all beings? What is a being? We are infinite beings. I don't mean that as a metaphor. I mean that as a simple fact that we are infinite beings, connected to every other being. In the koan that I'm eventually going to get to, in the verse, Indra's net is mentioned. A net of jewels reflecting one off the other. And this is reality. This is the reality of our existence. That we reflect one off the other. And the trauma that is done to one is done to everyone. The kindness that is done to one is done to everyone. We are infinite beings. We carry in our heart and mind the experience of all of the creatures that came before us. That's what it means to be conditioned. That moving away from noxious stimuli that you see in a paramecium is the same as you are dealing with in the Zendo when you think that your knee is the most important thing in the universe and you would do anything to get away from it. Or you think this person or that person is the most horrible thing in the world and you would do anything to either smash them or just leave, go away. This is conditioned existence. It doesn't start with you. It doesn't start from the moment of your birth. It starts from the Big Bang. And it just keeps on going. And if you are going to save even yourself, to say nothing of all beings, you have to get off the hamster wheel. You have to become inert, non-reactive, noble. The entire Great Vows for All can be looked at in this way, looking at each phrase. What does this mean? Delusions are inexhaustible. What are delusions? In some translations, rather than delusions, they say desires. And in some translations, they say afflictions. It's all propaganda. And somebody has to say, stop, enough with the propaganda. What's real? What's real? You have to get down to zero. To the baseline. Recognize who you are and what you are as an infinite being. And just hold up your hand and say, stop. Enough. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that all of Zen training and all of Mahayana Buddhism, including all of the sutras and all of the meditation and all of the chants and the structure of the day and the meal verses and the precepts and the prostrations, everything is simply a means of realizing these vows, of making them real, of actualizing these vows, of looking into your heart and looking into your mind to realize the infinite nature of your existence and the infinite effects of your actions, to realize what propaganda is, what delusions are, what afflictions are. To realize Dharma teachings. I like the translation that San Francisco Zen Center uses for that. They say, Dharma gates are endless. I vow to enter them. Dharma gates are all around you, inside of you, outside of you. They include the koans. They include the sutras. But fundamentally, they are this. This reality is a Dharma gate. The pain in your knee is a Dharma gate. You can enter it and find what it has to teach you. The difficult relationship with your family is a Dharma gate. You can use it to explore the nature of compassion. Everything, every moment is a Dharma gate just waiting to be entered. I'm not a big fan of the D.T. Suzuki translation, I have to admit. I love D.T. Suzuki for many, many reasons. And certainly he was vitally important in the transmission of Buddhism, especially the intellectual apparatus of Buddhism in the West. But his English, I suspect, was learned from Victorian English novelists who would never use one word where two or three would do. And so the Great Vows for All, each line in Japanese, I think, is 8 syllables, 8 or 9 syllables. And in the English version, 15, 16 syllables. It's wordy, and certain things, however immeasurable Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. What does it mean to master a Dharma teaching? You have to enter it. You have to become it and see fully what it has to teach you. That's true of the koans, it's true of the sutras, it's true of all of the experience of your life. And you will learn much more from all the experience of your life than you will from the koans and the sutras. You have to enter this Dharma gate and use it for all that it's worth. And then you can follow the path of the Buddha. So, finally, I get to the koan. Engo's introduction. Even when the entire body is I, you still do not see it. Even when the entire body is ear, you still do not hear it. Even when the entire body is mouth, you still can't speak it. Even when the entire body is mind, you still cannot think it. Putting aside the entire body, without eyes, how do you see? Without ears, how do you hear? Without a mouth, how do you speak? Without a mind, how do you think? If you are intimate with this, you are in the company of the ancient Buddhas. However, putting those old Buddhas aside, with whom should you study Zen? So this is basically a paraphrase of the Heart Sutra. No body, no mind, no seeing, no hearing, no smelling, no tasting, no touching, no thinking. This is the fundamental reality of ground zero. Getting to the starting line. Another way of putting it is main subject. Ungan asked Dogo, what does the Bodhisattva of compassion use all those eyes and hands for? Dogo said, it's just like someone reaching back for a pillow in the dead of night. Ungan said, I understand. Dogo asked, how do you understand? Ungan said, the whole body is hand and eye. Dogo said, that's pretty good, but not quite there yet. The standard translation says, well, that's 80%. Ungan said, so how would you put it? Dogo said, the entire body is hand and eye. What does the Bodhisattva of compassion use all those eyes and hands for? Those eyes and hands. In a lot of iconography, those hands, each hand has an eye. And it's supposed to be 1,000 hands, each hand having an eye. So really the question is, who is the Bodhisattva of compassion? That's the first question. And Engo's introduction kind of gives the show away. Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, doing deep prajna paramita, clearly saw that the 5 skandhas are shunyata. Even when the entire body is I, you still do not see it. Without eyes, how do you see? Without ears, how do you hear? Avalokiteshvara. That's you sitting in the zendo, listening to your body's propaganda. And how do you respond to it? You become the helping hand and the seeing eye and the hearing ear of Avalokiteshvara. How do you deal with suffering? The suffering in the zendo, the suffering on the street. How do you do this? You are the hands and eyes of the Bodhisattva. Nobody has 1,000 hands and eyes. The only way that they can have 1,000 hands and eyes is if you are the hand and the eye of the Bodhisattva of compassion. How do you respond? All of Zen training is making you hand and eye. That's all it is. Making you that 10% that is merciful no matter what. Starting with yourself. In the zendo, when you're suffering, be merciful to yourself. Oh, this is dukkha. This is what Buddha was talking about. You poor thing. This is what it means to have a body, conditioned existence. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. What did you expect? The purpose of Zen training is so that when faced with suffering, the response is as natural as reaching behind you in the middle of the night and pulling the pillow, putting it under your head. The pillow doesn't have to be your pillow. It can be the pillow of someone else who is suffering. When you see suffering, when you see struggle, to react naturally, instinctively, as if you were born in that wonderful 10% that is always merciful. I know that I wasn't born that way. Speaking of propaganda, the propaganda is that all beings are fundamentally Buddha. And that's true as far as it goes. But it's also true that, in my case, I'm extremely selfish. And I'm extremely lazy. And I have the attention span of a fruit fly. That anybody is fooled into thinking otherwise is the result of my Zen training. Nogo said, it's just like someone reaching back for a pillow in the dead of night. There's a story from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, one of my favorite Zen stories of two monks. I think they're anonymous in the story, who are passing through a city, and of course, back then the roads weren't paved, they were dirt roads, and it was raining quite hard, and they saw a young lady who needed to cross the street. Perhaps she was a courtesan. It isn't really said. It's stated that she was a lovely young lady. And one of the monks picked her up and carried her across the street so that she wouldn't get her kimono muddy. And then the two monks went on their way. And long afterwards, the other monk said to him, "Brother, why did you pick up that woman and carry her across? You know that our precepts forbid contact with women?" And the monk looked at the other with such pity and said, "Brother, I put her down a long time ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This is what it means to save all beings, in part. We're infinite beings. Our actions reverberate. One moment of kindness, one moment of doing whatever you can to alleviate suffering, however great, however small, doing what you can. And doing it without carrying the deed in your mind, like that poor monk who was still carrying that woman while his brother had left her on the other side of the street. Just doing it as naturally as reaching back in the dead of night and adjusting your pillow. That's what we are trying to accomplish in Zen practice. To save all beings. To end all delusions, all afflictions. To enter every Dharma gate. The Dharma gate, whether it presents in your own body or someone else's, or in a tree, or in a lake, or in the moon. Entering in, being intimate with. This is what it means to follow the Eightfold Noble Path, the ennobling path, the path that will make you non-reactive, but not dead in the heart or in the head. Dogo Ungan said, "I understand." Dogo asked, "How do you understand?" Ungan said, "The whole body is hand and eye." It's a wonderful, wonderful statement. The whole body is hand and eye. Not just 1,000 hands and eyes. You are hand and eye. You see the suffering of the world. You see the suffering of yourself in your own heart. And you raise your hand. You say, "Stop. Stop. I'm getting off." You see the suffering of your neighbor. What can I do to help? The whole body is hand and eye. That's pretty good, but not quite there yet. Ungan said, "So how would you put it?" Dogo said, "The entire body is hand and eye." What's the difference? What's the difference? The entire body is hand and eye. Words are treacherous. Words are fictions. No matter how good and proper they are fantasies. A word is never reality. And Secho says as much in his verse, the whole body is A-okay. I'm saying the whole body is hand and eye, that's fine. A-okay. The entire body is Jim Dandy. Just great. But saying so, you've set yourself adrift. Just when you reach back in the middle of the night, you don't say, "Oh, pillow, where are you?" "Oh, there you are, pillow. Good pillow. Ah, yes, perfect." When the entire body is hand and eye, it's just natural. Just natural. Nothing needs to be said. That's why a session when we don't speak is so liberating. You see something that needs to be done and you do it. You see someone who needs help and you help them. No speaking. No speaking, so no confusion. Saying so, you've set yourself adrift. That's like the story about Myoho-cho. This very place is Myoho-cho. That's true, but alas. Alas. Just saying so. What a pity. It's enough the doing. It's enough the seeing. It's enough the extending hand. Ungan and Dogo. Ungan was younger than Dogo, and so he's in the position of asking. They were brother monks. They both originally studied under Yakujo, Obaku's teacher. So they have some connection to the Rinzai lineage. But they then studied under Yakusan Igen. And Dogo, I couldn't find very much written about Dogo, although obviously he was a person of great understanding and had a good influence on the younger Ungan. Ungan went on to teach Tozan, one of the founders of the Soto Zen sect. So you see, back then, there weren't such clear boundaries between Soto and Rinzai. It's kind of a cultural accretion that happened over the years. It was very fluid back then. So this fifth day, I hope that you are developing some clarity as the session moves along. That your mind and heart are both opening, ripening, and that you will continue to exert yourselves in the best possible way.